Really good to see you this morning. Thank you so much, Clay, for your friendship and for the opportunity to speak to a bunch of wonderful people this morning. I wanted to introduce you to my family really quick, actually. Check these people out. So on the right is my son, Hunter. He's 21, going to GCU in Phoenix. That's my sweetheart, Tara. Ooh, she's fabulous. That's a weird nerd. And then there's my son, Kai. The weird nerd is wearing the white one, the white shirt there. Kai is, he just turned 13 on Friday, actually. Really, really sweet guy. Very, very smart and pure joy. So those are my people. I like them a lot. And so we're really glad to be with you. I did also want to say just briefly, Jeremy Gerard served so beautifully for so long here. I think he was here for 10 years. And man, did he love you. And I actually, I said this last week, but I was his sabbatical coach. And I told him actually, hey man, don't be making like plans for the future during your sabbatical, because that's not what a sabbatical is for. A sabbatical is about processing the past, and it's about learning to be again. Because, you know, ministry is 100 miles an hour, and it can be a little all-consuming. And sometimes we got to remember, oh yeah, this isn't just my job. I actually have a relationship with God apart from my job. So I just said, you know, it's an opportunity for you to be again. Well, he called me up at the end of it and said, well, I wasn't trying to ask God about the future. It just kept coming up. And I think I'm going to transition into our business with Brittany full time. And I literally said to him, oof, I pity the person that's going to attempt to fill your shoes. Which would be me and Mel. And so it's been an interesting process, but a prayerful process, and I'm really grateful for our friendship, Clay. Hollis, so grateful for your friendship too, man. And did you see he's wearing a Texan shirt this morning? We'll forgive him. I heard it was Ray's, actually. I heard Ray is a big fan of the Texans, and so we'll forgive him. Stretch your hands this way. Help him, Lord. Anyway, really good to be with you. And when Clay asked me to speak this morning, he goes, yeah, tell him a little bit about your story, because I want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me a little bit. And we're talking about fasting this month. If you're unfamiliar with what fasting is, it's a really beautiful kind of process or way to allow hunger, your physical hunger, to invite you to hang out with Jesus. So every time you feel hungry, you go, oh, yeah. Hey, Jesus, I welcome you into my day, or whatever you're going through. A lot of times, and I'm going to get into this, my perspective growing up on fasting was different than my perspective now. But when he asked me, he said, okay, talk about prayer, talk about fasting, and immediately this story came to mind. And this story that I'm going to tell you, which is kind of why I have the guitar. I don't always speak with the guitar, but, you know, sometimes it's fun to, you know, it's just fun to mess around just a little bit while you talk. And so, and it sets a mood. Some of you might absolutely hate it. I apologize in advance because it's happening this morning. So right when he asked me to speak, I had this memory of this. It was an encounter that I had with Jesus that has become a foundational way that I interact with people and with God. And so I guess in an effort to pull back the curtain and let you know me a little bit and see how I view things and how I approach my relationship with Jesus and my relationship with people, I thought I'd tell you this story. I do want to invite you to take notes. Not because I might say something spectacular, I mean, it probably won't happen, but instead because God might speak through me to you, or he might just bypass me totally, and he might just speak to you directly. So if you're a note taker, or if you're not, I want to invite you to take some notes this morning, because you do want to capture when God speaks to you. Okay, so here's the story. I was a worship pastor at a church, and I did feel like going into the worship pastor thing, I thought, man, I'm going to have so much time as a pastor to just hang out with God. There's going to be ample time to spend in worship and prayer and study and all this stuff. Well, as it turns out, the pastor job is a people job. And we're all going through stuff. We're going through difficult things. And so what I found out about the job was that, I was not just hanging out with God all the time. Actually, I was hanging out with people all the time and helping people navigate marriage difficulties. Or somebody just got put in the hospital and you want to go visit them and make sure they're doing okay. Pray for them. And then you've got people that are, like all of us, are struggling with really real issues, and so you want to be there for them and listen and ask questions. And then you're preparing for meetings and sermons and worship sets and funerals and on and on and on. And I didn't see this coming, but what I realized partway through that worship pastor experience was that I was feeling pretty distant from God. And I thought that was really weird. I thought being a pastor would invite me closer to God, but actually, I started feeling further. That was very strange. By the way, pastors need your prayers. Like a lot. I know I do. So feel free to pray for me. But I was kind of aware that I felt this distance. In fact, have any of you felt a distance from God? Maybe you're even feeling one right now. Show of hands. Anybody have felt that before or are feeling that now? Just like, I don't know, I don't feel really close to God. So I had heard that if you fast, like if you stop eating for a while, that like a lot of my friends said, oh man, when I fast and pray for a few days, God speaks to me. And for some reason, I think it was probably my religious framework, the way that I viewed God at the time. I thought, it's like a mechanism. It's like a lever. I starve myself and he talks to me. What a weird thought, but it was what I was thinking, kind of. I mean, it was a subterranean thought. It wasn't my leading thought, but it was kind of in there somewhere that somehow I could twist God's arm and he'd be like, okay, I'll talk to you. And so I went up to our family cabin, which is up in the mountains at the time. And I took all of my bag of tricks. I brought my guitar. I had a Bluetooth speaker. I had my Bible. I had a journal. I had a bunch of books that I thought might be helpful in just bringing my heart close to God again. Interesting thing about me, though, is when I fast, I get angry. Well, I don't know about angry, but frustrated. Anybody get hangry when you need food and it's just like a little bit edgy, a little frustrated or something. So I didn't really anticipate how that was going to impact my time up there, but I took all my stuff, and the first day I got settled in, and I started doing all the things that I knew to do. I had times of musical worship. I had times of prayer, listening. I was journaling. I was being reflective. I took some walks in the mountains. It was beautiful. I did everything that I could. And at the end of that day, I didn't hear anything from him. And I didn't really feel any closer to him. And that was frustrating. And also, I was hungry. And so it was like this combination, this building frustration. I thought, well, I'll go to bed and then maybe he'll speak to me in the morning. So I slept, I got up in the morning, and I did all of the same stuff all over again. I did the worship stuff, and I did the prayer stuff, and the reflection, and all the things that you're supposed to do to kind of create an environment, AKA twist God's arm to talk to you. And at the end of the day, the second day, guess what I heard? Nothing. By this time, I'm 48 hours into this fasting thing, and I am a little frustrated. And I did this little temper tantrum thing, where I was like, I just spent a bunch of money coming up here. I'm leaving my family to hang out with you for 2 days to hear your voice, and I'm hearing nothing. And so I just flexed like this little 2-year-old tantrum thing. And I could almost hear God go, oh. just look at you. Just down there flexing. And he'd be like, So anyway, I told him, if you don't talk to me tomorrow, I'm going to be so ticked. This is a giant waste of time. And I went to bed mad, got up in the morning, and did all of it all over again. And heard nothing. It's about noon, I think, and I was just so frustrated. I was about ready to pack up all my stuff because this is totally unproductive. And I thought, you know what? I had this idea come into my mind. Here's what I'll do. I will grab a bunch of pieces of paper. There's a long table in our living room area. So I grabbed a bunch of pieces of paper, and at the top of each piece of paper, I wrote like a category of my life. So I'm a dad, so I wrote dad at the end of one, or at the top of a piece of paper. And then I wrote husband and entrepreneur and missionary and all the things that I was at the time. And when I finished that, I had 19 pieces of paper out in front of me on this table. And I just told the Lord, kind of in a desperation, like, I just want to hear something from you. You can take something off of this table. You can put something new on. I don't care. Literally, my life is yours. You can do whatever you want. I just want to hear from you. And I sat there for about 30 minutes, and I heard nothing. At this point, I'm quite a few hours into this fasting thing. I was about to lose my mind. And I can't really describe to you very well what happened. I'll try, though. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything like with my ears, but I felt that Jesus walked in to my right into the back door of this cabin. Again, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything, but it literally made me sit straight up. I don't know if you've ever been in an environment where you had an acknowledgement, God's here. Whoa. This is special. Maybe you haven't had that. That's possible, by the way, for everybody, not just for me. Or so, not just for pastors, just for anybody. So I sat up, and out loud, I said, whoa, thank you so much for being here with me. Which I thought, that's a little weird, but that's what I said. And I said, if you'd like to talk to me about any of this stuff, I really am intrigued, like I want to hear from you. The rest of this story is, I'm going to let you into a conversation that I had with God, because that's what prayer is. If you're taking notes, prayer isn't just a monologue at God, where you do all the talking, he does all the listening. Like, could you imagine being in a relationship like that? Where you're just sitting there and somebody is talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and then they just leave? Some of you are like, literally the story of my life. But it's not awesome to be in a relationship like that. Typically, you want some like contribution back and forth. And I feel like sometimes God, especially when we're talking to him, it's just like, see ya. And he's like, no, there they go. Okay, no, there you have it. So the rest of this story is a conversation. Now, you have to understand, I'm not hearing God's voice like audibly. But you can develop a relationship with him where he speaks to your heart, to your mind in a variety of different ways. And so this conversation that I'm going to invite you into, it's not that I was hearing things here. It was that I was having a conversation with him in my heart and in my mind. So I felt like he walked into this area in the cabin by the back door. I sat up, all that stuff. And I felt like he said to me very clearly, I'll talk to you about some of the things on the table. I was like, yes. He goes, but I need to talk to you about a pattern in your life first. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't sound awesome. But I'm willing. I mean, I stayed up there for 3 days. I wanted to hear his voice. And so I said, okay, what's the pattern? He said, you view me like a boss. Like you're my employee and I'm your boss, and you try really hard. I can see it, man. You try hard, And you always come to me and you're like, hey, what can we do together? Like, can you give me an assignment? I want to do something with you. And I give you an assignment, and then you go do it, and that's pretty much all you and I talk about, the assignment. There's some times when people in your life that you really love are going through a hard time or a hard season, and so you'll talk to me about them. Sometimes you're in a tough spot, and you'll talk to me about that, but mostly what we're talking about is the job. And he said, so here's the thing. I'm not going to actually talk to you about anything on your list until you can figure out how to be my friend. And my head went, well, I thought we were friends. That's confusing. So immediately I was like, okay, well, let's be friends so that we can get moving and get the assignment going and keep the pattern going. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is a catch-22, isn't it? This is maybe the reason why God brought me up here is I wanted to move really quickly past that friendship phrase. So I sat there for like hours trying to figure out a way where I could genuinely in my heart say, hey, I'd like to be friends with you, even if you don't give me another assignment. And I couldn't do it. Literally like hours in, I was like, I got nothing. I can't honestly tell you. I just want to be friends, even if you don't tell me what to do next. And so I told him that. I said, well, this is weird because for years I've been telling people it's not about rules, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And here I am having this conversation years later, realizing I don't know how to be your friend. So I just asked him, could you help me? And the next thing that happened was weird. I mean, this whole thing is kind of weird, but I felt like he leaned close to my right cheek. Again, I don't know. It's just what I felt. And I felt like he said, I'd love to help with that. Absolutely. That's why I brought you up here. So I said, okay, how do you develop a genuine friendship with you? I don't know. He said, have you ever met somebody, in fact, I'll ask you the same question. Have you ever met somebody that within the first couple of minutes, you looked at him in the eyeballs and you thought, we could be friends? I just know. I mean, like, show of hands. Have you ever met somebody like this? You just looked at him and you're like, if we could hang 100%, it'd be easy. How often does that happen, though? Doesn't happen like every day for sure. It's very few and far between. How many times do you meet somebody and you're like, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you, and all that, and then you kind of go away and you forget their name or you forget that you ever met them? Is that because you're a jerk? No. It's just that there wasn't, did somebody say yeah? Because that was hilarious. It's not because we're jerks necessarily. It's because we didn't resonate with them. It's not like we thought they were weird and wacky. It was just, there wasn't a connection. But have you ever met somebody, you looked at them in the eyeballs for like 30 seconds and you're like, yeah, we're never going to hang out ever. Anybody? You ever met somebody like that? You just look them in the eyeballs and you're like, yeah, you're nuts. We're never hanging out. You guys are like, yeah, we're listening to a guy like that right now, actually. Never want to hang out with that guy. Sometimes you meet somebody that's just, oh man, there's this great resonation with, sometimes not, and sometimes, ooh. Well, I felt like Jesus said, here's the thing. I know you love me, Dave. I know it. You have loved me for a long time, and I appreciate that. You just don't like me very much. I said, what? He goes like, he took me back to my wedding day. I was standing at the altar with my hands in Tara's. We had written our own private vows. We didn't share them with each other beforehand. And so I was standing there at the altar holding her hand. I went first, and I told her, like, one of the things in my vows were, babe, I love you so much, but I just really like you. Like, we could hang anytime. I really enjoy you a lot. And she started laughing. And I was like, why is she laughing? I found out about 60 seconds later because when she read her vows, she had written the exact same phrase in the same order. She said, babe, I love you, but I really like you. And then we had this little nerd moment up at the altar, like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Super nerdy, but it was really fun. He took me back to that moment and he said, you know, like, you had that resonation thing with Tara. Like the first time I ever saw her, you guys, I was leading worship in this yellow and white striped tent just between Longmont and Boulder. And she came walking in. The third song in the worship set. I was leading worship. I was singing Here I Am to Worship. Do you know that song? The Here I Am to Worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. She came walking down and I was like, here I am to. And then I was like, whoa, sorry, Lord. Oh, man. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. She actually sat down on the front row and I was like super distracted the whole time. I was like, sorry, Lord, sorry, I'm so sorry. But the cool thing about our relationship is instead of just jumping right into a dating relationship, we just developed a really heartfelt friendship with each other. It was really cool. I'd never really had a friendship that depth with a woman before. It was amazing. And in fact, this year we'll celebrate 23 years of marriage. And that's one of the joys. That is probably the fundamental joy that I have with her, is that we're not just a married team necessarily. We are a good team. She's the best friend I've ever had. She is the coolest person I've ever met, no offense. But I really like her a lot, and I love her a lot. So anyway, I'm sitting up there at the cabin, and I'm remembering all this stuff. And I'm just remembering that when I get home from work, I don't typically just kick the door open and be like, woman, where's my meal? You know why? Because she would probably kick me somewhere fairly painful. But also, that's not how you treat friends. You don't treat friends like that. If you do, you probably don't have a lot of friends. You treat them good, then they'll be friendly with you. You treat them lousy, and you won't have very many friends. So I was remembering all this stuff. And then I just heard him say that. Like what you and Tara have, that connection, that closeness, that friendship, that desire to hang out, we don't have that. And I would love to have that with you. So it's not like I'm withholding myself from you. And I'm not shaming you right now. I'm not being weird or condemning. I'm just saying that's not how we roll together. You usually show up when you need something. Anybody have that friend in their life just calls you whenever they need something and that's it? Not super awesome. Some of you are really gracious and you're like, oh man, I'm just happy to help and all that stuff. That's cool. But when that person just does a transaction with you and that's it, that's a little tough. So I was sitting there and he goes, like for instance, I'll explain to you the difference. I know you love me, you pray, you serve me faithfully. You're not perfect, but you try. But also like, have you ever asked me how my day was? I sat there, a little jaw dropped actually. I thought, I have never asked God that question. How was your day? I ask all my friends that, but I've never asked him that. And he said, well, I had quite a day today. So what do you mean? He was like, you know how complicated your life is? Yeah, for sure. He goes, you know how I know every detail better than you do about your life? Yes. He goes, yeah, I know all those details plus 8 billion. Do you know how many details that is? Like the amount of knowledge he has about you and you, he just knows everything about you. The stuff that you know about you, the stuff that you don't know about you, your blind spots, the things you haven't really understood about yourself yet, he knows everything. About 8 billion people. And it's not just the people. He knows all the details about every animal on this planet and every insect on this planet, down to a microbial level. I mean, and he doesn't just know the stuff on this planet, he knows every detail about the unexplored universe, how it works, how it functions, down to an atomic level. Like, I don't know if there's anyone in history, you can fact check me on this, I don't know if there's anyone in history who has captured every single thing there is to know from a physical, metaphysical, spiritual, philosophical, scientific, like every component that you could imagine. I don't know if there's one person in history that knows everything about even one thing. And he knows everything about everything. That is an insane amount of information, unfathomable. That's why the psalmist says, like, it's unsearchable. You can't even comprehend how much he knows. So I was just sitting there and he goes, I know the unknown mysteries of the moon. Isaiah 40 verse 12 says that he took his pinky and his thumb and he spans, this is called the span of your hand, used to be an ancient measurement. He spans the universe. He's large. Like, I don't know if you know how big the universe is, it's fairly big. And he goes like, that's how big that is. Then he asked me, like, I know that you haven't necessarily asked me how my day was ever, but do you have any idea about what I cried about today? I said, what? He goes, oh yeah, horrible things have been happening and good things. And I cried in both, like, the opposing directions there. I cried with joy and I cried with sorrow today. I don't sleep. There's a lot going on. Some of it's absolutely heartbreaking. And some of it just brings a tear to my eye because it's so amazing. He said, have you ever asked me what I laughed about today? I said, you laugh? I literally was up at the cabin. I said, you laugh? He goes, I'm hilarious. I invented comedy, for heaven's sakes. I'm very funny. But like, we don't hang out, so you don't know that about me. And he goes, again, I'm not trying to condemn you or be weird. I'm just saying we don't hang out, and so you wouldn't know that. I said, whoa, that's pretty intense. So I love you, but I don't like you. I could totally understand where you're going. He said, well, here's the thing. You believe that same thing about me. Over time, you have become accustomed to believing that I love you. And you've believed that. That's good. I do love you. He said, but you also believe deeply that I don't like you very much either. That I kind of just tolerate you like I was having a really great day and then Dave shows up in prayer and it's like, oh, here you go again. Get ready for the monologue. Angels, buckle your seatbelts. It's all going to be about this guy again, you know. I could see him actually just being like, yeah, having a great day. Oh, there's Dave, the disappointment. I mean, let's get real though. Do you ever feel that way? Feel like, well, messed it up again. Sorry, Lord. You almost like come into prayer with your tail between your legs, like, sorry, I just, kind of like skirting your way back around the edges of the room. Ooh, jeepers. Look at this thing. Apparently it makes noises if you kick it. Sometimes you do feel that way. Like I've failed you over and over and over and over again, so I kind of just don't even want to show up again. Same story, same issues, same problems. So he said, you believe I love you, but you believe that I don't like you very much. And I basically said right back to him, like, well, how could I? How could I believe that you like me? Like, you're supposed to know me better than I know me, and out of all the people on the earth, I think I know me the best. And I don't even like me. How could you? And I got this really weird, stubborn, rebellious thing that happened to me, and I literally just said, I'm out of here. That is garbage. I used different language. I was being vulnerable, and God can handle that type of thing, but I'm not super stoked about the language that I used. But I said, that's garbage, and I'm out. So I packed up my stuff, went down the mountain. And I kid you not, over the next 6 weeks, no less than 10 situations happened where people, I was pumping gas one time at a King Soopers. I can remember it. This person was walking to my right over to pay. They didn't use a credit card. They were walking just kind of in my periphery. They looked at me and stopped and went like this. And then they looked back at me, hesitated, walked over to me, and started kind of stuttering like, hey, man, this is weird, and I don't normally do this. I was just getting gas. I mean, I'm just going over here to pay. And when I looked over just briefly to see you, I felt like God so clearly told me, go tell that guy I like him. And I was like, so I just sprayed him with gas. I'm just, okay. I'm kidding. This other time, King Soopers, I don't know, maybe God speaks at King Soopers, I'm not sure. He can speak just as well at Hayes Market, I'm just saying. My experiences were at King Soopers. So I was in the cheese aisle, literally reaching for cheese. Somebody came up to me, different person, different time over a 6-week period, and it just said same exact thing, same disclaimers. I don't normally say this. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just felt like God wanted to tell you that he really likes you. I was in the hallway of a church. I was walking south. This person walked up to me and said, hey, I was thinking about you 2 days ago, and the first thought that came to me was, man, God wants you to know he really likes you. Gah. I'm a little bit stubborn, a little bit hard-headed. Anybody resonate with that? Yeah. And about 6 weeks into this, I didn't just kind of surrender or capitulate and say, all right, I get it. You like me. Okay. I literally had this conversation with him. I said, okay, I'm not saying I believe that you like me. I'm just saying, what if you did? What if you did like me? What if it was true? So I remember after, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks went by, I decided that I would try something. I asked Jesus out to lunch. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but I literally got my calendar open and I said, hey, I've got a lunch available at Tuesday at noon. You want to hit some Chipotle? I didn't really hear anything, so I was like, take that as a yes. So we went to Chipotle. I felt like a weirdo. I was standing in line by myself, and out of the corner of my mouth, I was like, you want something? And also, if you don't eat it, can I have it? I just felt like a weirdo, though. I did. So we got a Chipotle burrito together, or two. And I took my Bible with me, and I opened it up and spent lunch with him. Nothing spectacular. I didn't have this crazy mountaintop experience. I was just practicing something that felt weird. I was practicing treating him like a friend, like he was real. I never tried that before. I remember I'd walk to the mail. I'd say, hey, you want to walk with me to grab the mail? and I would talk and I would listen. Sometimes I would sense him speaking back, sometimes not. You know, like with Tara, when we go on date nights every week, which we have for like 17 years, sometimes we talk a lot, sometimes we enjoy each other's company in silence. It's not because we're mad or ticked. I mean, sometimes we get mad and ticked. I have a long, illustrious history of not making the best decisions. Anybody resonate with that? Yeah. But a lot of times we'll just sit there, drive down the road, and we're just hanging out. Not needing to talk every 5 seconds. So sometimes I would drive down the road and slip my hand into the empty seat of the chair next to me and just say, like I'm driving down I-25, and I just say, hi. Thanks for being with me. Anything on your mind? It felt weird, actually treating him like a friend. But one of the things that I realized during this time was that I think during that time, my heart, which was pretty closed to the idea of him liking me, started opening up like this much. And I think with some masterful skill, he grabbed a seed out of whatever bag of seeds he might have and just masterfully just threaded the needle right between the very narrow opening of my heart that would entertain the idea that we could be friends. And it started to grow. And it started to mess with me. Like it started changing the way that I talked with him. I was raised in an environment, in a church environment, where the more times you said God's name in 30 seconds, you were viewed as like super legit. So it's like, Father God, in Jesus' name, wonderful counselor, mighty God, Prince of Peace, you know, and you just say like every name that you can remember, and then you pray some, I guess. But everybody around you is like, dang, that guy knows how to pray. He knows all the names. And I just started thinking, I don't have conversations with literally anybody else in my life like that. Like, what's your name? Luke? I'm not like Luke. Luke, it's so Luke, good to see you, Luke. I mean, Luke, when Luke looked at you, Luke, you know, you'd be like, yeah, that guy's nuts for sure. We're not hanging out, you know. That would be strange. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I remember there's really, at that time, one person in my life that used my name over and over and over and over again. And it was my 2-year-old. Dad, 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 Dad. It's like, what? What do you want? And then I had this moment. I was like, whoa. Maybe I say his name so many times, so I'm just wondering if he's listening. I mean, some of it's cultural. Some of it's just how I was trained or what was shown to me. But that really started to mess with me because I started not in a way that's like rude or I'm not trying to develop like a buddy Jesus theology where it's like, what up, buddy? That type of thing. Because I do respect him and honor him. But even the psalmist says, man, people that get the honor of developing a friendship with God get that because they revere him. This is Psalm 25:14. Friendship with God is reserved for those that revere him. Like you don't get friendship if you don't respect him. So, I don't know, it just started changing the way that I prayed. Because I wasn't like, oh, Father God, you know, and just using every thing. I would just say, you know, I am struggling with something. Like on my way here this morning, I was driving in and I just said, man, I'm going to need your help today. Need your help to tell this story. And I need you to be merciful to me today and gracious. And I would appreciate that so much. And I'm just talking to him like I would talk to you. And so it started changing the way that I worshiped. Because like as a worship pastor, it's really easy just to get in the mode, you know. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God, you're on. This is what worship pastors do. Like, you want to participate, you want to come in, it's kind of horizontal in that way sometimes. But then I realized sometimes you just forget. You're actually singing to Jesus. And I would close my eyes. Sometimes you'll see me do this. I'll close my eyes, and I'm using my my imagination to picture the face of Jesus. And I'm trying to sing these songs directly into his eyeballs, which is weird. Have you ever looked at somebody in the eyes and sang them a song? Oh, it's weird. It's weird for all involved, really. But there's something special about that. It started changing the way that I worship. So it wasn't just a sing-along time. It was like, Lord, here I am to worship. And here I am to bow down. And then I was like, well, I'm not really bowing. So sometimes I just get down on my knees. Here I am to say that you are my God. It just started messing with me. It started changing the way, and I'm going to wrap this up, but it started changing the way that I interacted with people in terms of talking about Jesus. Because I stopped trying to use a bunch of apologetic frameworks to convince somebody. And I just started talking about my friend. And it changed everything for me. If you're like, what's the scriptural basis for this? Check this out. John 15, 9 to 15. Look at this. Jesus is talking here, and he says, he's talking to his buddies. He's talking to his disciples. And he said, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. Well, how do you remain in his love? He'll tell you right here, that second line. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love. How in the world do you remain in Jesus' love? You do his commandments. But check it out. He says this. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in his love. And he's like, dude, you guys have been watching me for 3 years now. You watch me do the Father's commandments, and you've seen me remain in his love. I'm literally passing this on to you. If you want to remain in my love, do my commands. And you're like, well, what's his commands? I'm glad you asked. Actually, before we get to the command thing, look at this, into verse 3. I've told you these things so that you'll be filled with my joy. If you ever wonder why Jesus is laying down all this framework, here's one of the reasons. He wants you to be full of his joy. That's unbelievable. And then he says right here, yes, your joy will overflow. So then here's the commandment. Love each other the same way I've loved you. How do you remain in his love? You love each other the same way Jesus loves you. Check it out. There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. You want to develop a friendship with Jesus? Do what he says. What does he say? Love other people. Love yourself. Love other people like I've loved you. And check this out. He says, I'm not calling you servants anymore. No longer do I call you servants because a master doesn't confide in his servants. Now you are my friends since I've told you everything the Father has told me. Man, his heart for us is to develop a friendship. Like, he was just in a couple chapters, he got crucified, died, raised from the dead, and ascended to heaven to sit at the Father's right hand. Like, this is right at the end. He's saying, hey, I've been hanging out with you for a long time to communicate this to you. Let's be friends. Let's do this thing together. Maybe some of you are going, whoa, I have a pretty robust religious framework. I've never really thought about God as a friend. If that is stirring in you this morning, after hearing some of this story, if you're sensing like, this might be a good time for me to make some kind of a decision. Like maybe, what if this year is a year of prayer, but what if the whole purpose is because it's actually a year of friendship? Like prayer isn't just a religious activity, it's hanging out with Jesus. So maybe this is a year of building a deep and beautiful friendship with Jesus. If your heart is stirring in you like, I want that. I don't know how to get it. I don't know if I'll be able to hear. We should hang out because I'd love to help you figure that out. But also if you're feeling stirred like, I might need to make a decision for this year that I am going to pursue a genuine friendship with Jesus. I don't always do this, but if that's you, could you just let me see who you are? Yeah. I'm signing up too, by the way. I don't have this figured out. This is like a journey for me. Yeah, let's go. Some of you are like, I mean, yes, but I'm not going to raise my hand. That's okay. All good. Let me pray for you and speak a blessing over you. Jesus, thank you that your goal here seems to be that you want to invite us into a beautiful and genuine friendship with you. I really am thankful for that. That is very cool. And a bunch of people in here are feeling stirred like, maybe, I'd like to pursue a friendship with Jesus like that. And in maybe the same awkward way that I tried in the beginning to hang out with you, taking you to lunch or taking you on a walk or driving down the road, watching a movie with you, whatever. It'd be amazing at the end of this year if we could reflect back and say, wow, my friendship with Jesus grew like crazy in 2026. And I want to keep that moving forward. Lord, thank you for loving us so much and for liking us. That is just mind-blowing to me still. So I invite your blessing, the blessing of friendship, to rest upon your friends here in this room. And bless you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, sorry for being so long-winded, but may the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you, and cause his countenance to rise on you and give you his peace. And we'll see you next week. You people are cool. Go with God.